Welcome to Cyber Sentries from Cyberproof on True Story FM. I'm your host, John Richards. Here, we explore the transformative potential of AI, cloud, and cybersecurity, where rapid innovation meets the need for continuous vigilance. This episode is brought to you by Cyberproof, a leading managed security services provider. Learn more at cyberproof.com. On this episode, I'm joined by Ben Colman, founder and CEO of Reality Defender, a leading AI threat detection company focused on detecting things like agentic AI voice and video deepfakes. I asked Ben what the tells are to detect deepfakes and whether it's really a problem. And he shows how what was a small issue when they launched 6 years ago has now proliferated everywhere, as impersonations that can fool the human eye or ear are no longer the sole domain of state-level processing power, but can now be run on most home computers. Let's dive in. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
John, thank you for having me.
Tell me a little bit about how you got started and how you got into Reality Defender. It's a very unique company. What was your journey to getting into deepfake security?
I've always been obsessed with this space. This is basically all I've ever done, really kind of learning and working and partnering at the intersection of cybersecurity and data science. And so it's really kind of applying cybersecurity frameworks to whatever is the kind of newest method to attack companies or attack people. AI is now at that place. Started my career as a summer intern at grad school at Google. I've done some work advising various government groups, always defensive, never offensive. And I worked at Goldman Sachs, sitting 5 feet away from the CISO, seeing a lot of these activities happen in real time. And I'm often a bit early, sometimes too early, I guess frequently too early to the problem. But in this one, it was kind of that same story. It started this company really as a nonprofit research project about 6 years ago. We were a few years too early. But since then, the world has caught up to us in a big way, and we're proud to be leading the space.
Yeah, no kidding. 6 years ago, obviously, AI and fake content has been around for a long time, but really the rise in proliferation wasn't where it was at 6 years ago. What started you interested in this, and how has the landscape shaped? Is this really a big problem out there?
The technology has been around for a while. What's changed is the accessibility for people to do it at scale. Hollywood obviously has done this for over 10 years, but only in the last year or two can, non-technical folks deepfake your voice, your face in real time. We had an experience in a previous role I worked in where we were about to make a multi-tens of millions of dollar wire transfer. And the last check was to confirm a client of theirs. And the client got on the call and said how great they were and, how it's so amazing and the leadership is so great. And then 20 minutes in, the client's voice changed and realized it was a CTO of the company. And so, there wasn't exactly a deepfake in the kind of classical sense. It was more just a kind of some kind of voice change. It wasn't the best, to be honest, but it really kind of demonstrated that if bad things can happen, hackers, state-level groups, fraudsters will use it at scale because fraudsters are the best product managers. They have no tech debt, and they only got to be right once to win, and everyone else has to be right every single time.
What does the landscape look like in terms of, you mentioned state actors to large scale fraud to anybody can pick this up now and almost do that. Are you seeing very fragmented, lots of small groups? Are you seeing larger major groups being the threat? Or is it a kind of a 50-50 split? Or, what's that look like right now?
The answer is just yes to all of that. If you're a fraudster, you'll use this to attempt to commit fraud at massive scale. If you're not a fraudster, given that the technology has been democratized, but the regulations haven't caught up, you're not a fraudster, there's a, kind of an interesting incentive that you could try and do it and commit fraud without actually learning anything or without any risk at all. So the answer is just yes to all of that. We are seeing scale-level groups do it at scale. We're seeing average folks doing it at scale. We're also seeing kind of a gradient of different kinds of issues that are kind of the gambit of entertainment to fraud. If I deepfake Tom Cruise, is it entertainment? Is it satire? Or am I trying to actually attack his likeness or commit some other kind of impersonation or reputational issue?
Yeah, you would just, earn money off of somebody else's work there. So, you mentioned the scale up and the availability. Do you have numbers or even general figures on what the difference has been, from 6 years ago when you kind of started out doing this to where we're at today?
I think 6 years ago, there were early pieces of technology allowing you to do this if you had specialized machinery. What changed then was about 3 or 4 years ago, where suddenly you can do it using commodity cloud compute. The challenge there was, unless you had 100 grand of free credit on Amazon or you're willing to pay for it, it was just out of reach. And what's changed in the last 2 years is that you can do it all locally in your computer. So anyone can download models from Hugging Face or GitHub, run them locally, or also do things on cloud. What that means is that right now, real-time deepfake voice is available to the world. Audio is easy to impersonate. Less than 5 seconds of audio can make a perfect voice match. Video is still a bit computationally expensive. So we haven't yet seen video happen at the scale of audio, but 6 to 12 months from now, it's going to be just as huge, given you'll be able to do it all locally on your computer or your phone.
Wow. Now, what are the main ways that people are doing fraud in this? Is it I'm impersonating somebody to try and get, I don't know, access to their bank or personal information? Or is it I'm trying to blackmail or those what are the kinds of different fraud that are in this space, as people try to figure out how to exploit this?
I think there's an interesting question there, which is, where is the fraud happening and who is willing to actually try and stop it in which spaces? First I'll say that social media is a massive vector for different kinds of fraud, whether it's non-consensual AI pornography or AI-generated child sexual abuse material, sextortion scams, different kinds of AI romance scams. The problem there is there's a kind of a strange lack of incentive for platforms to do anything because regulations require nothing. And so they'll either do nothing or they'll rely on community notes, which only happen once it's already been shared a million times. And so while I would love to support social media platforms, we're really hoping regulators will require them to actually do something. But for right now, they're not doing much. In terms of the fraud that we're seeing across different areas of consumer, it's mostly tied to financial fraud and identity fraud. It's using a deepfake of John's voice to try and execute an account takeover at your bank, reset a password, add different wiring information, all the way into kind of identity onboarding and KYC, where I'll use a fake face of yours, maybe a face swap on my face to try and authorize something for a wire transfer or getting into your account. Or beyond that, calling your grandparents, calling your kids, or calling you as your grandparents or your kids, which is the granny scam, and saying, hey, I'm in trouble, I need money. It sounds just like them. I'm an expert in the space, and if my 8-year-old called me, I would think twice and, maybe still wire the money because it just seems so real and scary.
I feel like I'm lagging behind. I've done the text messages from the CEO saying, hey, hurry up and get me this. And then it's like, oh, what I need is a bunch of gift cards. And like, oh, okay, actually, this is a scam. But to have like a real voice is another level. That's crazy.
And the CISO piece you mentioned is obviously interesting. But, I think we've all gotten so used to it. If someone asks you for gift cards, it's fraud.
Yeah.
More about, how you think about kind of the broader kill chain in terms of using deepfakes as a fraud vector. Oftentimes there's a 10-step or 100-step fraud process spanning days, weeks, months, where you're being asked for something that doesn't even seem like fraud. Maybe about a restaurant reservation or a travel confirmation. There's not much there, but it's just enough to be used to then commit a kind of deeper fraud based on this extra piece of information. So, thinking about how Reality Defender plugs in, really the goal of Reality Defender is that we connect into probably 85 or 90% of the tools that companies already use across their call centers, their telecom partners, their endpoint protection and identity verification, their brand intelligence and narrative detection. All these places have either real-time media, live communications, and all these places can be deepfaked using completely off-the-shelf tools.
And I think part of why we don't have a lot of regulation in this space is you feel a little helpless on what can I do? So how are you all tackling this? What do you do to try and figure out, oh, this is of what, because people are more comfortable with this, getting even like a passport. They're like, log into this and we'll take your picture and we can verify it's you to do this next step. And I was like, oh, this seems pretty authentic.
No, that just means someone has John and Ben's information. Doesn't mean it's actually that. So, we took an interesting approach. We started the company, we had these models. And the question was, were we going to build kind of the best point solution that did all these things for you to actually consume, or are we going to power all the other tools you're already using? We picked the latter because when an organization like a JP Morgan, one of our first clients, when they chose us, they actually want us to come in everywhere there's potential risks of deepfake, AI, or agentic fraud. And so we took something incredibly complex that we're updating multiple times a month, and we reduced it down to an API and a range of SDKs so that John, the developer working on a call center solution or video conferencing, can either integrate it directly in 2 lines of code, or more likely than not, we're already in the app store and you just double click on it and it just shows up. We don't want junior person in a call center or junior person in cybersecurity or incident response to have to learn a new tool. We want to engage them where they already are and provide a signal into the same fraud engines they're already used to responding to, or in parallel, automating that escalation. So it should just work. Similar to Stripe for payments or Twilio for telephony, we take something very challenging and make it very easy for everybody to use.
That's huge. Now, if I, hearing the voice, can't tell the difference, and obviously you don't want to share your secret sauce, but at a high level, how are you able to tell? Are you looking for indicators or flags that it is AI? Are you comparing against like a true source of truth to see how it maps? How do you fight that a bit at a kind of a high level?
So, we do not have any ground truth. So we're running inference models that are probabilistic as opposed to provenance models that are deterministic. We do that for a number of reasons, one of which is in my previous life at a highly regulated bank, anytime a vendor touched client data or employees' voice surveys, it led to a 900 or 9,000 page risk assessment.
Yeah, for sure.
The fact that we don't use any of that is kind of one of our main selling points. It allows us to move quicker and allows clients to be much more comfortable on using our technology. But fundamentally, we have a range of ensemble models that have submodels looking for different kind of probabilistic indicators that there may have been AI generation or manipulation. You could think of it as, like let's say a 3-axis chart, point in time, but then expand that to kind of 4,000 axes. There's 4,000 different points there. It's kind of a cloud of points. And we have a cloud of points indicate realness, a range of points indicating generation or manipulation. And so even if one of them might be off, it's kind of as a whole, they're still quite far apart from each other. We're doing that across kind of spatial, pixel layer, but also temporal, kind of across time and transitions, across audio, video, and images. We're taking audio waveforms, converting them into spectrograms, running vision models on those as well. And so we're not only looking for things that we know we've seen, but also things that we have not seen, but we think we can create in the lab. And so that means we have an internal red team, we have an internal data team, and of our roughly 54 people on our team, roughly 40 of them are PhD researchers and engineers. We're constantly pumping out research because the space is moving so quickly.
I can't imagine. So staying on top of that's so important. Now, does that take a long time? You're doing all this comparison. You mentioned via API. What's a response time look like? Do you get it? And then it's like, hey, wait for tomorrow, and then we'll know if this is legit, or, how long does it take to really analyze? Obviously, how big it is probably matters, but, what's that look like?
When we started the company, it was purely asynchronous and near real time. And then about 3 years ago, it moved into real time. So we directly can sit on top of and in line with Zoom and Teams. We're in the App Store. Just search for it and grab it and start using it. Same thing with integrations with call center, IVR, IVA, CCaaS, UCaaS solutions as well, where we are effectively scanning in real time, overlapping chunks. We do have logic. We want to kind of see a certain amount of time of AI to avoid issues of AI generated or programmatic ambulance signal or interesting background noise, but we are scanning in real time.
So it's probabilistic. So you're getting some, I assume, percentage of how likely this is. What do people do when you start to be like, oh, this is 50-50 or kind of in that middle? What do you recommend as like next steps for folks throwing this out?
Typically it's pretty close to 100 or pretty close to 0.
That's good.
But naturally you get in situations where there's high degree of background noise, whether it's coincidental or purposeful to try and obfuscate the voice or the video. And so that's where we get into kind of more specific trade secrets on how we take different ensemble pieces with a pre-processing or with a kind of a more of a total model score and reduce it down to something more actionable Example is, let's say it's a completely real frame and only a face swap, but the face swap is a real face on my face. So there's different levels of realness there with different kind of borders that represent anomalies that we're looking for. And so for us, one good example is when there was the first diffusion-based image that was an explosion at the Pentagon. We saw it in real time. We detected it, and our clients had that intel. Whereas most platforms let it kind of go viral before they let community notes block it, and that led to a $100 billion flash crash in the market. So, truly credit to our team. Our red team is second to none. Our research team is constantly pushing research, probably more research than our investors want us to publish. But that's really how we're attracting the best and brightest folks at all the big research conferences that we have been selected to present at: CVPR, NeurIPS, ECCV, AAAI, and InterSpeech. All of those have our research that have been selected for publication, all of which is available on archive.
Where do you see this kind of heading? Is this just going to get more? I mean, you kind of hinted at video being a factor and kind of growing. Is this just going to be more and more? And organizations out there worried about this. What's their next step on trying to get ahead of this?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say 3 years ago, people were saying, "Prove to us this is a problem. We haven't seen it before." And last year it was, prove to us that it can actually be detected. And now this year it's proved to us that Reality Defender is the best in the market. We've won every industry award across banks. We had JP Morgan, their innovation award in October, November. We won the RSA conference award 2 years ago. In December, Gartner named us the market leader in the space. We actually power a few of the companies they claimed were potential competitors to us as well. And so, yes, it's getting worse. Yes, we need elected officials and regulators to push kind of AI forward regulations. And not to say AI is bad, not to say all deepfakes are dangerous, because a permission deepfake is an AI avatar of you or me, a bunch of great use cases for that. But at minimum, just to require platforms to scan for it and let the user or the consumer know if it's AI or not, and they can make their own determination. For my kids, I don't want them to see any generative AI. Maybe for me, I want to see it in certain situations, but obviously I don't want to see it on a video conference call or for work. So yes, it's getting worse. Yes, we need regulations to catch up. As far as how we're thinking about it, let me first say there is no silver bullet in cybersecurity. We are not the only tool in the world that solves for fraud. It is very much a perimeter strategy. What's unique is that every other point solution, every other piece of that perimeter is effectively a yes or a no. Yes, it spends device, spends connection, spends phone number, spends telecom, spends, unique device ID. All those actually just prove that somebody has my information or has, jailbroken my phone or my computer. We're saying yes, but the real-time stream is AI. Now, with the advent of agentic, suddenly then that AI might be permissioned, which opens up a whole exciting new world of detecting agentic voice. And so what we're going to be announcing in the coming days and weeks, leading agentic tools integrating us inside their agentic voice platform so that they themselves can say, hey, our agentic voice can detect other agentic voices, inbound call center calls, but also deepfakes as well. And we can use those as a kind of a routing mechanism to say, you know what, this is perhaps John's agentic voice. We will let it call in. We will let it ask a few questions. We will let it, transact up to $100, but no, it can't do a pass a reset. It can't add Ben as a, wire transfer recipient. It can't take over an account or do a SIM swap. And so kind of very similar to how you permission, Amazon.com to use your credit card in one click. It's effectively a kind of an agentic type transaction. It's not going to be able to do something $10,000, but it's certainly going to buy me more shaving cream.
Wow. I love that example too, because it is a real use case of, I've seen folks doing this around certain customer support actions and things where you want some level of, this is useful that you can call in and check and verify something. But as you're saying, you want to make sure it can't go further. So being able to set gates or things like that in there is fascinating. So for an organization that's looking to make use of this, would they plug in directly with Reality Defender? Would they work with a third-party group that already has you? What's kind of the process if I've got my own application that accepts media and I'm like, hey, I should be considering this. I'm having folks upload something to verify who they are. Maybe I should be thinking about, is this AI or not?
Yeah, well, very much credit, to our engineering team. We have a completely public API and a range of SDKs so that anybody could just go to our website, realitydefender.com, one click, get an API key and start using it for free today. We give a ton of free API calls. So whether it's real time or asynchronous, they could use it immediately. If they're an organization that has their own proprietary solution, they can integrate it. Typically takes 15 minutes. If they just want something a bit quicker, they could look at our website and see where they could already use it today in the tools they already consume. So whether it's agentic tools, whether it's endpoint protection, whether it's call center platforms, Zoom, Teams, video conferencing, and beyond, web scale scanning, we have over 100 integrations where they could consume our signal as one of the signals within platforms they already use and the types of risk scoring they're already used to engaging.
Yeah, well, I will make sure we put those links in the show notes so folks can find those easily. Of course,
if they shout out the show, they could email me directly, Daniel@realitydefender.com, and I'll give extra scans and credits to the account. We love our developer community. That's where we've learned the most. It's really how we're able to push the envelope on what we're developing.
Well, can you speak a little bit to that? So what does it look like building a community around this? And is there a feedback cycle there? What are you hearing from them that's like impacted the direction that you've gone?
Well, I mean, the great news is that developers do not hold back. So when there's an issue, or a suggestion, it's not one voice, it's hundreds of voices. And so, our product team loves engaging with developers. And we also we're always happy to explore what roadmap items we're considering and have them help us prioritize those. We can't boil the ocean. And we do try and stay very focused in terms of DV detection and not be distracted by other types of more kind of identity or provenance-based approaches. But we truly treat them as extension of our development framework.
Well, with the API approach, the nice thing is if you've got those core fundamental pieces, you can always build out more on top of that to be able to, make use of that.
Yeah. And we're flexible there. We have an API and a public SaaS environment. We have clients also deploying us, their cloud or on-prem, on edge, and also fully local on device, completely air-gapped as well. So that kind of spans the gambit of what our work we're doing with both enterprises and government users. There's different use cases, environments where you might not have internet connectivity or you don't want to have internet connectivity. We're able to maintain our efficacy in those environments as well.
I mean, you've talked about voice and video. Are those the main media types? Do you do anything with like text-based or other media types? What does that look like?
Yeah, our focus currently is on audio, video, and images. There's always interesting challenges around text, given I think we're all using or we're all guilty of text all the time. So it's sort of thing we're thinking about. We use various kinds of internal text models for different parts of our stack, but our focus has been on human-based impersonations. So that's human voices, human faces, humans in situations. We are now expanding the aperture to non-humans as well, thinking about different kinds of thinking about what's going on right now in the world, AI-generated military vehicles in certain regions. So for us, it's what is observed in the world that has been AI-generated or manipulated.
Yeah, so at a base level, that's really what you're getting at is like that has a huge security impact. But at the core, you're trying to inform whoever's using this of, can I be confident this is a real person, a real thing, or was this AI generated? And then from there, the assessment becomes, is this a security risk or not? Are you seeing like that kind of logic flow? I guess even in that example you gave of where, hey, I've identified this as AI, but I will allow it to continue, that there is this kind of tiering of risk assessment that goes in. Do you do some of that, or is it more you or I identifying and then it's up to the person integrating to really figure out the risk assessment part once they know what kind of content it is?
I think given how quickly this is evolving, we certainly have a view on how they could think about a playbook or a recipe for our signals. We do provide kind of soft and hard bounds. And so based on our confidence intervals, they could auto block or auto punt it. And for lower ones, they can, ask more information or kind of follow more of a traditional next step verification process as well. Like I said, cybersecurity is very much a kind of collaborative, multi-signal environment. And so we typically add our signals to other solutions that might have the other provenance pieces. We're able to say, doesn't mean that it's him, it just means it is his information.
Yeah. Probably can't give a specific number, but are you, what are you seeing out there right now in terms of like the prevalence and how much, these signals across all your different things. Are you finding that it is a daily issue where this is hitting everywhere and the numbers are just kind of increasing constantly?
We have clients, scanning hundreds of thousands of items a day. It's not a daily item. It's a, second by second or millisecond challenge. We have clients who are seeing double-digit numbers of inbound callers or faces with an identity as being agent or manipulated. We just had a new client reach out because they gave 4 job offers and they found out that all 4 of them were deepfake profiles.
No way.
3 of them didn't exist. One of them was a guy at a big tech company who said, "What are you talking about? I didn't apply for the job." Three generation and one manipulation.
Yeah. Wow. That is crazy. Yeah, man. No wonder folks need to get on top of this, because that's a lot of time and effort, even in something, where they catch it. They've still spent so much money down the pipeline,
Number 1 and number 2 jobs are selling and then recruiting. And their recruiting is very, very close to selling because you're kind of selling the world. It is a full contact sport, and the amount of expense put into recruiting one person is substantial. So anything you do to identify deepfake personas early in the process, it is worth its weight in gold.
Yeah, that's huge. Wow. Ben, I really appreciate you coming here on the podcast. This has been fascinating. I've learned a ton. You mentioned earlier the website, but where can folks get plugged in? And then you mentioned recruiting. Any roles out there that people interested in this should be checking out? Where can folks go?
Yeah, if you're passionate about cybersecurity and deepfake detection, please go to our website. We have I think over 10 roles that are live right now. We'll be adding a few more. Everything from engineering to R&D to sales to product. If you don't see something that you match to, please reach out as well. Let us know what you're great at, and we'd love to connect. And as I mentioned, anyone who signed up for API, reach out to me directly. I will give you more credits. Just shout out this podcast.
Well, thank you so much, Ben. I'll make sure links are in the show notes for everybody to check out Reality Defender. Again, fascinating stuff. I'm glad somebody out there is doing this, because I hear about it and I'm like, I hope my bank's paying attention to this, but what can I do, myself? So again, thanks, and looking forward to seeing what's next. Definitely, you mentioned this new option of the agentic piece. If folks are interested in that, make sure you hit the website, and glad you're on top of video as well.
Yeah. I mean, please don't put my email in that text. We want to make sure they actually listen to the podcast. Yeah. We don't want their agentic bots to find the email and spam 1,000 times for free stuff, but we also did that as well. So, John, truly a pleasure. Thank you so much.
This podcast is made possible by Cyberproof, a leading co-managed security services provider, helping organizations manage cyber risk through advanced threat intelligence, exposure management, and cloud security. From proactive threat hunting to managed detection and response, Cyberproof helps enterprises reduce risk, improve resilience, and stay ahead of emerging threats. Learn more at cyberproof.com. Hey, thank you for tuning in to Cyber Sentries. I'm your host, John Richards. This has been a production of True Story FM. Audio engineering by Andy Nelson. Music by Amit Sagi. You can find all the links in the show notes. We appreciate you downloading and listening to this show. Take a moment and leave us a like and review. It really helps us to get that word out. We'll be back May 6th, right here on Cyber Sentries.